ladies and gentlemen, I told you we got the one and only Nic Nemeth, a.k.a. Dolph Ziggler, a.k.a. Nikki, a.k.a. The Natural, a.k.a. The Show Off Perfection, a.k.a. Mr. Ziggles.
Damn.
You should have heard the way EO8 introduced the Hardy Boys.
That's 4 decades you got to run through. So that might have been the intro might have been the entire interview.
And there was like 5 or 6 other names that I saw in there. Like, this guy's on fire. All right, so Nic Nemeth in the building, a.k.a. Dolph Ziggler. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm the last year I've been with TNA. I've been very fortunate to be with a company that has this amazing infrastructure and build, and they've been building off of the backs of guys like Moose and Jordan Grace for a couple of years now.
I read coming into 2024 and you coming in with TNA, like you just came in there kicking butt all over the place.
Well, you know, I don't want to. Let's see. I'll try and sound like a humble person, but like I'm really good at my job.
Well,
so
isn't that your second nickname, the Show Off?
There's a reason. You know, I could back it up and say that I'm showing off and like take time in matches to like screw around because I'm really good at this job. I don't know how it came to be, but I'm a fan my whole life from 5 years old. I wrestled in grade school, high school, college.
And I was gonna say, well, that's how it came to be. I mean, you decided at 12 years old you were gonna be a wrestler.
5, brother.
At 5 years old. No, I'm sorry, 12-year-olds, you started wrestling. You decided at 5.
I started wrestling.
Jesus Christ.
5 years old. So my dad took me because Cleveland didn't even have an arena in the city at the time.
Nice.
We had to drive out to Richfield Coliseum, which is like 45 minutes, about an hour out of town, out of Cleveland, to go watch like the Cavs play or anything happen. And there was a WWF live event, and I went 5 years old, and we sat in the nosebleed seats. Now you got to picture now, there's no pyro, there's no Giantrons, electric lights and boards. It is a black curtain, and somebody puts a record or a tape into a handheld microphone to play music for someone to come up. That's how this is 38 years ago. So that happens. We sit far away, and I was hooked. I go, Dad, I want to do this. He's like, you want to be a wrestler? I'm like, yes. He goes, well, I can sign you up for wrestling. I'm like, okay. 5 and a half. I signed up. I have a weird birthday, so I'm in first grade at 5.
1980, you were 80s baby.
80, yeah. So, but it's summertime, so it could have been 5 or 6. I'm 5, I go early. So I walk in, I remember opening the gym, I'm waiting to see this wrestling ring and steel chairs and stuff, and I go, it's just mats on the ground. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, what? I'm like, I want to sign up for wrestling, not whatever this is. My dad goes, this is how you start wrestling. Once you learn the basics and get going and become athletic and get at it, if you stick with it, maybe you can become a professional wrestler one day. So I stuck with it all the way through. I went to college.
Yeah, I saw
Kent
that.
State, Division I, graduated all-time winningest wrestler, no big deal. But the whole plan was like, I think I can break this record. And if I do, when you Google my name, the first thing that will come up will all-time winningest wrestler in Division I, Kent State.
Like 180 something.
165, no big deal, but and I go, if Vince Googles my name, because I go, I'm 5'11", I'm gonna be 200-ish pounds. I go, I'm not. Most guys are 6'6", jacked, or they have their legacy in the business and they've been around, or these pieces. I'm by myself. I don't have anyone rooting for me, and I somehow get a job there. But I go, if he can Google me, maybe he'll see that I'm the all-time winningest wrestler, at least give me a shot. And part of that worked out. So the entire reason I wrestled all through college was to get a shot at a tryout, and it all worked out.
I saw St. Edward, you had the highest record there as well.
And St. Edward's, really quickly, people brag about being like on state championship teams and things like that. St. Edward was national champions while I was there. The entire country. This is high school kids. It happens to be 15 minutes from my house. Awesome wrestling powerhouse. 2 of the 4 years I was there, we were national champions. Like
wow.
We had Olympians, MMA dudes, national champions in college. Guys that went on to be like, there's like 6 or 8 Big Ten coaches. I was just murderers, like badass dudes, and I was okay. I was pretty good. I got a little bit better in college, but I was okay.
Yeah.
But I was on these teams, and just being in the room with these guys just made me better.
Being in the room with great people always makes you better.
Yep, always.
All right, so with your show up persona, and the way you've been defining this part of your career, how did your character evolve? And did you see yourself taking it in this direction?
Well, a lot of times in my old life, for those 20 years, I didn't have a lot of say character-wise. wise. And even 15 years in, when you're called on to be a leader and control everything that's happening in the ring, whether the guy's older than me or higher up on the card or not, it was always up to me a lot, the responsibilities. I wasn't always given the opportunities that came with it, but that's part of the life. That is show business, that is pro wrestling.
That's everything.
That is everything. So like, there's positives and negatives to that. And it was like, I thought there's a lot of growth here. So I started doing stand-up comedy on the side and improv shows and just doing interviews on my own, unrelated, just to try and go, I'm going to get better at this to where it's undeniable for the boss to like, if he's not going to give me the ball, I'm going to try and take it. And it never really happened all the way through, but everyone in the business, and really important to me, is the people behind the scenes and the guys and girls in the locker room with me, they knew the deal. So that's what really matters to me most. It's cool to have a legacy where like, hey, everybody remembers these 20 titles. That's cool. But the locker rooms that I've always been in, I've had the utmost respect given to me because I think I earned it, and I really appreciate that part.
With that part, earning your respect, with you knowing that you were going to be a wrestler, you still went to school and you got accepted into law school.
Yeah.
You're also a stand-up comedian. Why did you do other things if you always knew that wrestling was going to be your whole way?
The whole point of me was to have options, because I made a deal with my parents. I'll go to college no matter what. And then once I get that degree, we'll figure out like, okay, now you get something to fall back on. That was a deal I made with them. But I just go, I'm going for this no matter what. And when I did it, I said, I go, if I'm great in a courtroom and I'm even smoother, I might even have a character out of it, and I can add that into wrestling. And there was at the time, there was nobody that I knew that was law school graduate that's like fighting. It's just, there's some fighting dudes. And eventually there was like a Harvard law guy or something, but that was 20 years later. So at the time I was doing, I'm like, I'll add to it, but also I love law. I still follow it now. Like I love wrestling and I watch it all week, and I have even do a radio show on Busted Open on Sirius XM.
Yes.
But I love all day long talking. On the ride here, I was following some constitutional law, and I'm just like going through a piece like, oh, this is why this doesn't count. And it's like so exciting to me. So all those pieces were going to come together, and the plan was to go to Arizona State's law school and then go to wrestling school at night and hopefully have them all work out. And 2 months before the first semester, I got a call for a tryout, and then that was the end of the story.
Work ethic.
Yeah.
All right. So you've had matches with tons of amazing people out there. Rivalries, people that you wanted to work with, tag teams. Is there one match or opponent that stands out the most? And it was the most rewarding or challenging to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's a bunch. I didn't like prep anything to be like, oh, here's why. But there's a couple that come really quickly. I'll say Alberto Del Rio, Kofi Kingston, Sheamus, and Daniel Bryan, right off the top of my head, because in so many different ways, it was with Sheamus, it's brawling and taking a punch for real 20 times. And it makes you step up your game and your intensity. With Daniel Bryan, he knows so many different styles and roll-ups and can choke you out that it made me step up, go back to my old amateur wrestling days and throw that in there. And then we're fighting to headbutt each other and going for it. I go, that made me bring that intensity out. When it came to Kofi Kingston, him and I were on the same page so many times, and we had the best of 500 series that I think he won 497-3. But it was a best of 500 series that we had so many things that we could do that there is a cool clip of I could time out me looking the other way and he's jumping in the sky off the top rope to do a crossbody. And at the last second, I turn as he's there and I jump up and catch him because we had such beautiful timing together and we're all on the same page. Like, that was beautiful. And Del Rio, he used to beat the hell out of me, but again, it made me come back that much harder. And he was like, so we had this weird, really smooth chemistry, but also there's brawling and all these different pieces to it. So it was really fun being in the ring with him.
Nice. We're coming down to our last 5 minutes here. Frank C coming up at 3 o'clock in the mix, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go nowhere. Back to Nic Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler, the TNA World Champion of 2024, in case you guys didn't know who we're talking to. He's in the building. You're known for your work ethic, but how do you balance your physical demands of wrestling with taking care of your body and your mental health?
It's a great question.
Because you're doing a lot. I mean, I know how it is. When you're running 24 hours a day, what are you doing to keep yourself right?
There's something that I got to a point where it was mostly a joking, tongue-in-cheek way of saying it, but I would say, like, someone would go like, hey, are you on Raw tonight? And I'm like, I don't know, I don't watch. And I made it like where I famously don't watch wrestling, but I got to a point to where I was so focused and like not sleeping at night because even if someone told me how great this match was, there was a piece or two that I personally thought I gotta fix. I did that again, dang. And I would lie awake and I wouldn't be able to sleep. And then I got to a point to where I felt comfortable enough. Nobody's ever done learning and getting better, but I felt comfortable enough that I would go crush it. And even if I knew there were some mistakes, I would give myself 2 days off to where I sat at home. I watched movies, I watched Archer, I watched SpongeBob, and I totally took wrestling off my brain and then relaxed. And then the next day go, okay, here's how you will never do these 2 mistakes again, and then burn them into my brain. So that's the only way, because otherwise there was an 8-year run where I was measuring my time off in hours at home.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm like, I got 31 hours at home.
Kind of like my life, yeah.
Okay, I just kept the suitcase open by the door, and I loved it. But it was also like, man, at some point I got to have a little life here too. But
all day.
We'll get to it.
All right, with so much experience, what advice would you give to an up-and-coming wrestler looking to make it a name for themselves in this business? You got 20 plus years in this business.
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
And I've seen different ways of going about it. Some people, like myself, like I tried to get my name when you Googled me to come up as a Division I all-time winningest wrestler at a college. And some people, like they played football and they can bring that mentality here. And then some people think outside of the box, like Zack Ryder 15 years ago and started making his own videos and making his own movies or making a music video or making a song or just any other way. You don't have to be a wrestler to be in this business. You just have to be insanely disciplined. And there's a couple guys and gals that I saw walk in 6'5", jacked, handsome, beautiful, whatever the situation is, and then they pick it up and I go, oh God, how are they picking this up so fast? Man, we got something here. And then they're like, a couple weeks into the travel, they go, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. Yeah. I need to be home 5-6 days a week.
Sounds like the DJ game.
Bro, that is, yeah. And we saw so many times, I go, here's the new guy. Here's the new girl. This is it. And a couple weeks or months, they're gone because you have to have a weird mentality like, hey, I won't be at home most of the year.
Nice. All right, so you're in town for...
Big old Genesis, TNA Genesis. By the way, Texas already loves pro wrestling.
Facts.
Especially old school WCCW days. I was talking with your dad a little bit earlier.
Nice.
I am a big Freebirds Von Erichs guy. And
all day, baby. Let's go.
Some beautiful.
We used to go watch wrestling at the Sportatorium.
He told me. I know it's such a famous place, and the tradition is still there and passed down from families here, which I love seeing because I can just say Von Erichs. And then someone will say Freebirds. I say Freebirds, and they say Von Erichs, and they say Sportatorium, and they mention it, and it's like, it's so cool because I was very lucky. Michael Hayes was one of my mentors in WWE, and I got to learn so much from him. But just knowing that when I first started, Jim Cornette handed me a stack of VHS videotapes. Wow. You don't know what those are.
Who even has a VCR?
Exactly. And it was like, okay, and it was like, watch this, and a stack 5 inches thick of notes scribbled. Wow. Watch this match here. Watch how to talk here. Here's what this. Watch this person in the crowd lose their mind on this thing. And it was just like I was learning from it. And I used to go home and just watch this one match all the time. That was even just the entrance sometimes if I had a couple cold ones, because it's the Freebirds come out and everyone's booing and throwing trash at them. And
Sounds like me walking in.
It is a baseball stadium that is past capacity. Like there is like 70,000 people, and the song hits. I think it's LaGrange at that time from for the Von Erichs.
Okay.
And when it kicks in, it goes and the shriek that is emitted as a group from like the 40,000 women in the crowd. It was like the Beatles on Ed Sullivan times 100,000, and they go, ah! They lose their minds, and these guys get out there and they can do anything. It's just like, Michael Hayes doing this, and everyone's booing, like, and it was just so beautiful. Like, it reminds you that it doesn't always have to be complicated. You can just have these nice stories and make it good, and have everybody just forget everything, put their phone down, not think about their day, and just be lost in that story till you get to the ending. And it's an awesome thing. It's a beautiful sport that we're in.
We're lucky to have it. Nick, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking the time to come out and talk with us here at KNON 89.3 FM. If our listeners out there, they want to see where Nic Nemeth is at, what he's doing, where can they follow you on social media?
I prefer Twitter, but yeah, I'm not going to see it on Instagram.
X.
Too many people sending me X. But at Nic T. Nemeth, it used to be Heel Ziggler, but I don't own that name anymore, so no big deal. No, I'm saying that's, yeah, and I always post if we're going to be in town, if we're doing a comedy show, Hunkamania with my brother and I, or if we're in town for wrestling, whatever it is, I'll post on there and you'll know about it.